and let you because we're going to meet the fan on the streets for Vanir at this point before we talk about it. And I'll let you talk a little bit further down the line. Take a look.
Hello, I'm Mama Eriksson. This is Papa Eriksson. And this is Grandma Eriksson. 10 years ago, Papa Eriksson helped build Eriksson's first computer. And since then, we have followed his career and supported his true dedication to League. Gaming can be tough, but when Eriksson wins, nothing is sweeter. Love and support is key to success. That's why Vanir will win and beat Dusty tonight.
Oh my
That
God.
has got to be one of the best content pieces I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that's the sweetest thing ever.
That broke my heart. Like having that support, and
Oh. That is so nice.
I can't. I can't. Oh boy, that
My shallow, insufferable, insolent, dark, black abyss of a heart is suddenly beating vibrantly after that. That was just,
That's
that's so nice. I feel like it's a thing that happens in gaming, right? In terms of having that support from your parents, it's such a nice thing to hear of a set of parents that just understand and have that support. It's you know, not to trauma dump, but that's a wholesome video.
it's really wholesome.
That's really wholesome.
I was not expecting this. I was
mean,
not expecting this.
I know his mom is on Twitter as well. I think she follows me, and I see quite a few tweets from her, you know, supporting Eriksson. And I find it so beautiful. And I think for Eriksson as well, there's a big redemption split for him. We all remember NLC Division 2 on Verden didn't work out. They ended up getting relegated. So for him, if they end up winning these games and making it to that playoffs, it will be a huge redemption for him, because we've seen him have success before here in the NLC and Nordevent in 2021 and 2020. So, you know, he want to bring back to those days, and with the support from his family, I don't think anything can stop
And
him.
with that video, I'm behind him. Let's do it. Come on, Eriksson. I'm with the Eriksson family.
You know when you see Gwen is immune, Ash is not immune to this. Ash got hit heavily about this. I'll just.
That was a consoling moment, not official.
Let's talk about Vanir versus Dusty right now, because this could be a great opportunity for Vanir to skyrocket on the standings, to try and meet up with the Bifrost at this moment after the defeat versus Singularity. What can they do effectively to beat Dusty? Because Dusty is not an easy team.
Yeah, I think Dusty looking much more like a cohesive unit nowadays, really reaching the kind of that skill ceiling that we talked about. Now it's time, can Vanir peer past the facade? Can they kind of get past the illusion that's in front of them? They're very much, it's confusing, right? You're so close, you're so far, you've got to take every game as it comes, obviously. You can't get ahead of yourself. Now you're up against a Dusty team that have at times looked inconsistent, have at times not looked like they have the cohesive unit that we keep talking about. Now more of an individual identity, and Vanir have to make sure they are biting the bullet and taking their chances on every single rotation.
For me, I think it's very important to highlight how much this game matters for both teams. You've mentioned Dusty, they can maybe tie up the second place here, but for Vanir, they've been given a second hand. They had it going up against X7, they then lost that. Then they have to count on other teams. Singularity have helped Vanir out big time here, beating Bifrost. So this is a game where both teams want to give 110%. And I'm very excited to see how it goes.
Enough with teams. What about lines? What to you is the line they need to work around specifically to make this work for both teams?
For me, God, I feel like it would be remiss. I feel like you have to look at Eriksson now after that, right? Like,
And you do.
Yeah, you do.
I'll attack you. No, I'm kidding.
For me, Backlund versus Eriksson going to be a really interesting matchup for me as well. Merbs versus Stend.
Yes, that is what I wanted
I feel
to
like
say.
if two superstar coming to the league kind of have a very consistent performer. To me, actually, stylistically, in some ways, somewhat similar to Denvoxen, I think it would be maybe fair to say. I'd like to get your take on that as well.
I agree to a certain extent. I think they can both play to that same late game hyper carry, let's play around me and I'll be the strongest. But
Continue.
at the same time, Denvoxen is a bit more of a creative mastermind. We talked about it last time when I was here as well. He has the different picks and he whips those out. We talked about the Yasuo potentially being seen. He's played Lee Sin before in the bot lane. He's willing to play the mages, where Merbs in that sense is a bit more one-dimensional and has, you know, specialized in the late game hyper carry. Then Voxner has said, yes, I can do late game hyper carry, but I'm also willing to experiment, play a lot of different champions.
We're about to jump into the champion select. What can we expect from surprises from both teams, Vanir and Dusty? Backline has been popping off in multiple champions and different champions as well. And can we expect something interesting? Nah. Look into me. Look into me like I'm talking. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Thank you so much. So Backline has been popping as well. One of the members of this team that actually survived the changes of the rosters. They were supposed to make those changes, by the way, for those of you who are not aware. Backlund just got back in as one of the last members. It was not building the roster about him. It was just him coming back to finish up the roster.
There's a new MC in town.
Oh no, we gave him more power. Hey, without you going further down the rabbit hole, let's jump into the champion select for Dusty versus Vanir. A lot of stakes for both teams. Let's see if Vanir can rise up to the occasion or if Dusty can look for the second seed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just on the onset of the draft, Vanir being on blue obviously means they're going to be going for those heavy priorities and get more of a chance to see what they do so heavily prioritize in terms of their play towards that playoff spot. And in response, obviously, you can see R1, R2 from Dusty. I feel like it gives them the chance to...
As an MC, you have to get closer, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm getting a bit closer.
Like that.
Yeah. I'm on the mic. I feel like
Nautilus and Yumi being taken away on this first part of the champion select. So a lot of attention towards the bot side, Zaremba and Stend. But there you go. Backlands Yasuo being removed. Really key, important part of this. He's a playmaker. They have to be afraid of him.
More important is the thing we talked about last week, is the fact that Dusty can flex the Yasuo that makes it so powerful, right? We know Backlund has an insane Yasuo, but then again, you know he could play it, but the Voxer could also play it, and then it could be thrown around, and it's hard to play again. And if Kerberos as well, suddenly you have 3-man flex, and that was one of the things that Voxer found so much success on back on Trick, where they had 3-4-man flexes, and it was pretty much unable to draft against them. The Fiora getting banned, obviously going up against Kerberos. I like the fact that the Wukong is banned. Yes, his early game clear speed has been hurt, but he is still a very strong jungler when you go into the late game. For me, the interesting thing here is the lack of any AD carry ban. So, I mean, the Sari is open. Yes, she got nerfed in terms of her movement speed stacking, but she still deals as much damage as she did before.
I feel like Vanir have to make a choice here. You've got Corki on the table. If you don't give it over, you give the potential to give Corki and another very strong jungler as well. They're going to go for the volley B1. To me, this says immediately, Dusty, you lock in Corki, you lock in another power pick here. You could also go for the Zeri, but I feel like we said earlier in the broadcast, now the Yumi, it's a little bit weaker. You obviously can't pivot into the mid lane anymore either. So, yeah.
That's a good analysis. Yeah. Maybe they're going to look into this one, then Voxen looking for the late game. As soon as he gets to those late games with an Enchanter as well, they might as well pick up the support now. If you want to go for the jungler, you can tie up, just handshake with something else. Or maybe you can get the support and make sure, okay, we have the Enchanter, we have the AD carry, then we look into the jungler on the third.
It sort of depends what you want to go for, right? In terms of, do you want to shore up your defenses? Do you want to like kind of not give too much away about your theme? I feel like drafting is a really, it's a real battle of themes, right? It's a battle of chess in the sense of you don't want to alert the other team as to your theme. Obviously, on red side, you are kind of alerting the other side to your theme a little bit earlier. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they lock in here. If it is that jungler, I feel like you handshake the jungle pit with the enemy. They're going to go for that 2v2 lane that we spoke about. And I feel like the Zeri, Renata, it's not something we necessarily see get that much play. I think with Renata, you see a lot more Kallistas, stuff like this, Kai'Sa, stuff like this. It's a slightly different thing in response, what they're going to be taking here from Vanir.
I like this because you bring in the Renata too soon, you show up your hand and you're like, okay, so now we can look into casters instead of straight up AD carries or something like the Jinx that is going to deal damage once she gets hit by the Renata ult.
And the matchups in the bot lane have now been decided as we see the solution. Nami, so very powerful early 2v2 lane has been locked in. I'm excited to see how Voxen will be able to deal with this pressure that is coming through and how good Merbs is at utilizing this. Because for Merbs, I would very much categorize him as the late game hyper carry. But now he's playing someone who has a lot more to do in the early game than just sit for 60 minutes and farm up and become a menace. So it's a bit of a different style from Merbs that I'm very excited to see how he will perform on.
For me, I'm not a massive fan. I feel like the Xin Zhao pick is very much precipitated in terms of response to the Volibear. I feel like they've almost immediately now realised that they have to pivot towards bot lane. The B1 Volibear to me is a facilitator champion, but obviously when you lock in the Lucian Nami, now a lot of attention is being shown directly towards that bot side. You feel like Volley is almost binary locked into pathing towards that, and I feel like the Xin Zhao is very much being pulled out here. You don't want that jungle pool to get pinched in the second ban phase. You want to have something that can actually counter or match up with that.
Going to be the top pool now being picked by both teams in the bans. Camille alongside with that Gnar is going to be removed from the table. I mean, we're talking about Dreampool and Kerberos. Kerberos is a carry by nature. Dreampool is still coming into this team, trying to find his place. What else do you think is going to be taken? I know you want to talk.
Yeah, it's the Corki that's open at the moment. That's what I'm really looking at. Now they banned the Silas away, but both Corki and Dusty are still open, and for me, the Corki is really the strongest of those
Vanir
two
have
power
to ban.
picks.
Vanir have to ban Corki here. They ban the Silas, which means they don't have the counter traditionally that we've been seeing in the LFL. We see Diplex pick that a lot. There's a few times it's been picked in the in NLC as well. This Silas ban to me very much signals we want Corki on 4. And I feel like if Vanir don't ban it, then they're just giving it over. I feel like Dusty, you have to pick Corki on 4 here, no? Surely.
Yeah.
But now, is this a 500 IQ where
It
you
could
don't
be,
ban
it could
the
be.
Corki and you're like, take the Corki, we have an answer. They could deviate this from for Ari. I mean, if you build the Ludens, if you build the book, someone is happy. But maybe that could be the play.
It's so horrible to me to just continuously see Nymera apologists in the NLC player base, just constantly giving in to the demands of the tyrant that is Nymera.
The tyrant.
He's a tyrant. He really is. He's got a tyrannical presence about him.
Maybe, I guess. I'm really bad at reading people then.
Anyway, we see some of the blinds here. I feel like the Ornn, very staple pick here. In terms of some of the picks that are available into it, you obviously have quite a few lane matchups with the R5 here. There's a lot you can pick into it in terms of you want to add some of the scaling elements because you have the Lucian Nami that need to be accelerated, need to be played for. I feel like you want to have more stable lanes. And Lissandra, we've seen that as a typical counter pick. It was something that was really prevalent around the MSI patch, for example. 100% win rate into the pick. I don't necessarily think it's that prevalent. I think there are ways to play around it and get good outcomes from lane. It's a kind of similar setup in the sense of it's a direct pick into champions like into something like Ari, but
There it is.
Corki's available and they take it. I feel like it's a good thing to take. You're almost throwing down the gamble here of it's obviously being available so late into the draft. Now they have like real scaling options. Yeah, we spoke about the Darius and stuff like this into obviously the Gnar, and they lock that in directly. It's obviously a champion. Like for me, if you're excited about Banderas' Darius, no disrespect to Banderas, I think he had a really good performance on this. This is a Kerberos champion to me. This is your get in the side lane, play there, and just absolutely demolish and decimate. And I feel like, yeah, you want to put Kerberos on something like this. This is where he really flourishes.
I was looking into the champion select for Vanir and was like, this is a really good composition. And then I see the Darius versus the Ornn. I'm like, who is it though? So, final takes, Duckling.
I really like the Corki here. I think, you know, I'm going with Mama Eriksson on this one. I'm voting Vanir.
Okay, you're voting Vanir now. What about you?
I think because we keep picking Ari because of Nymera, nobody wins. He wins.
By the way, so
Nymera
far on
wins.
the prediction game, both analysts have been wrong 100% of the times. Let's see if this one is going to be different. Well, only one voted, by the way, as we toss it to...
I vote for who he didn't vote for, just to keep it.
So Dusty, okay,
Yeah,
so
Dusty.
finally we get a different vote. Let's toss it to the casters to jump into the Summoner's Rift. Without further ado, it is initialized, it is Nymera. How are you guys doing?
Doing fine,
we're
just
saying hi to
putting
them.
my younger brother into his place for his complete degenerate obsession with Ari being picked.
I even wore the
He
t-shirt.
did actually wear the
I'm
t-shirt today as well.
sorry.
There's no saving him anymore.
Was there to begin with? What gave you that opinion? What gave you that idea?
But false familial loyalty.
Yeah, so actually in this specific game, on that R4, when you see actually maybe you can lock in that Corki, you've already locked in the Xin Zhao at that point. Xin Zhao, like, he is a very risky champion in a lot of ways nowadays. He is not nearly as consistent as he was in Spring, where you could just play hyper early game and then roll into incredibly strong team fights with 5 seconds of invulnerability from anything longer range than you or outside of your Crescent Guard. It's not really the case anymore. So it feels like you have to play towards a stronger 2v2. I know actually, so this is something that I Will Dominate says about Corki. You pay the Corki tax in early game. You give up like first 2 dragons and a herald most of the time, right? That is contrasting to what Xin Zhao really wants to do. If you don't get stuff done as Xin Zhao early, you struggle. The only caveat to that is when you have a Yuumi. That's not on the table either. It is about early game. Ari is the best proactive mid laner at kind of consistently securing prio. You could have actually picked Lissandra there instead. We sort of hovered on the other side, but I can understand the mentality of saying, look, we just got to get something going through mid 2v2, or at least on top side.
I'm hovering something too.
Yeah.
The game start button. Beep.
Thank you, casters. Start the game. Production, that means please go.
I was actually given a heads up that we were ready to start the game.
Because it's deer hunting season.
It's deer. It is actually deer hunting season. Oh boy. A lot of fabulous skins on the Rift today and some very epic music to set us up for our third game of the day.
I wonder what's happened to our friendly duck overlord of void-like nature.
Where is Sothotch
Where is
these
Sothotch?
days? How is he doing?
We haven't
Is
seen
he
that duck in
safe?
a while.
Is he all right?
Don't you start quoting
He
Star
seems
Wars.
in our over-memeing. We may
Well,
have
there he
killed
is.
him.
So
There
there.
he's okay. He's
Yeah.
just quieter than
Hello,
usual.
Sothotch. Just
Maybe he's no
staring
longer
there.
possessed. Maybe that's
I
what's
don't know.
happened.
He just went into that brush.
I don't know,
I actually
that's
think
it.
he was trying to join the Dusty level 1 there.
That would be very
A
unfair.
dangerous figure to be facing at level 1, I hear.
It's like Do you remember when Mordekaiser his current rework
Yes.
was able to sort of like kill dragon, take the soul of whatever of the dragon or whatever he killed as a pet, and then walk around with it? So he just sort of like, yep, well, I've killed dragon, and now I have it as my attack dog.
How that broke the game.
Multiple ways. There was somebody on Reddit who kept a list of Mordekaiser bugs, and I believe it was like several hundred long.
Yeah, no, I think it got to 21 pages.
Wow.
Ridiculous how many interactions that had. I believe that only got topped by Viego.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh my god, that champion. Both of us have some game design background, and I've done my fair bit of coding in the past too. And I just look at that, and it's one of that points where you look at the console, and there are just too many errors. That you look at something, you take out a bug, it goes from like 37 to 50, and you're like, let's close the console down for today.
Indeed. Well, when you can take over every single champion, suddenly there's a lot of interactions to work with. But speaking of interactions to work with, we've got to figure out where the interactions are going to be in this early game.
We were talking about the Viego, blah, blah, blah. Very big champion in spring and had shown some presence towards summer. Very similar to kind of in the position to Xin Zhao and how we now see on the Rift. Really interested seeing what the pathing of Linkus is going to be. Looks like he's heading towards that level 3. Wondering what exactly his idea is. It seems like a pretty topside focus from Dusty. As much as Volleyball Lucian Nami kind of demands some kind of saving presence on the bot side, otherwise they can potentially cause you some real problems in the bot side. When you have Darius and you've got a Xin Zhao Ahri, top side is the 3v3, it looks pretty strong. Do you think, though, get towards that Herald and Ornn gets a little bit problematic? Just depends whether Vanir find themselves in a good enough position to play around something like that. Of course, Corki's not going to be at a similar point of power, sadly, for them to capitalize on to give you that same presence around the top side of the map.
And then honestly for Vanir, on the other side, they've got Merbs and Zaremba on this Lucian Nami option into the Zeri and the Renata, who will scale to be very deadly as the game goes on, but certainly the early pressure should be going the way of Vanir, but obviously with that focus towards the bot side, you've got an early game topside play from Dusty.
Could have known.
Dreampool about to get pulled by an apprehend one feels. He tries to flash the charm and does so. Going to try and place one up best he can, but I just don't think he's got too far to go. Does get a decent knock-up, but Kerberos with the apprehend. They can't quite secure the kill. Backlund about to die to the tower, and that'll make it a 1-for-1.
Oh, that's
superb stuff.
Oh, I mean, he's still losing the wave under tower, but I mean...
He's got TP, he'll be
Dusty
okay.
Don't end up CC chaining. Of course, you fire that charm out first, gets flashed away from. Normally, you think Dreampool is going to sit by the tower and look for a multi-man searing charge. That tends to be the outplay that Ornn goes for. Get the big knock-up under tower, but, I mean, he remembers to pop his pots, and Dreampool, while he goes down, makes Dusty pay a lot more for that trade than they realistically should have done.
It's 1-for-1, plus flash on the enemy jungler, flash TP on Backlund's Ahri, and the Ghost on Kerberos. That is huge, and for Backlund as well, who has been, honestly, one of our star mid laners this league.
Very much
this
so.
split in particular, rather, as I rephrase that to be a little bit more grammatically correct. That is not what you want to see, First Blood notwithstanding.
And what that also means now is that you don't have flash on your Ahri to make a play onto the Corki at some point. Now with that, Corki, who is kind of just snoozing for a little bit up until something else comes in, means that Corki gets a bit of a free ride into more relevance to that first package, to where he wants to be in this game. It's going to be top lane 2v2 again.
3v2.
Really using that Xin Zhao.
Oh, he's got in. It's going to be the 3v2. Kerberos getting a lot of damage down, but in goes Linkus with the audacious charge. But the turnaround damage makes it at least a 1-for-1 against Dreampool. Chugging those potions and stays alive again. Kerb can't go and fight. He's waiting for a decimating strike and does manage to get one. Flash for the stun, though, and Backlund goes down. Quails gets another, and Vanir are on the board. Is it another upset?
Oh, and what an important win this would be for Vanir, of course. It's too early to start counting eggs before they've hatched, but Vanir, they were up against a draft that wanted to get stuff done early through topside, and 2 plays in a row, they have answered with absolute fire. Kriok's in the right place at the right time for this one. Dreampool had to do all of his stunts the last time, but you're looking at this play onto the Ornn, who gets so much regen out of just popping his pots early, turns around a load of these plays, and the solo laners have put so much, invested so much into this top side and really not gotten that much to show for it. Vanir so happy with how this is going.
I mean, Kraok should be renamed to Orpheus at this point because a 3-man gank with a man named Kerberos on the top side, still escaped from hell and managed to come up with a kill to the good. That's impressive stuff for Vanir, who make this early game a very tricky one for Dusty.
Normally we'd be going on to like more Norse mythology. Guess we're going to more Hellenic roots for this one. Maybe get Medic on the cast next one. Bring in the Hades references.
Great game.
In case he's not told you yet, world champion on some speedrunning records back in the day for that one. Back in the day, it was only like a year or two old.
Within the world of speedrunning, that is quite a large amount of time, though, as those records do change pretty regularly as people figure out new and impressive ways to break the old records.
Just like Dusty were speed running it down top lane.
Absolutely, it feels like. And now Vanir with an early game lead with this comp that, particularly with the Corki and the Ornn, is supposed to scale a little bit later. Yes, you've got this Lucian Nami, but the pressure hasn't been there early on. And they're going to take the additional opportunity now with that pressure towards the bot side to claim first. Drake at the game, and Linkas is back for a third attempt.
Again, Dusty have to play around topside. Dreampole has the ult, but Kerberos, this is looking dangerous, Dreampole.
I don't know about this, looking for the knock-up, misses it though, but look at Kerberos taken very damn low, but a Noxian guillotine executes the Forge God.
And I think Vanir, you know, they did a great job of doing what they could for the top side early on into the game, but there is always going to be a point where that Ornn is left out to dry. Dreampole not quite with the wave in the right place. What this does mean, though, again, is because of the amount of resources put topside, the rest of the map starts to flourish for Vanir. You have suddenly Creox, who's managing to set up bot lane for success. Now, bot lane hasn't managed to do that much in terms of a 2v2 just yet. I'm actually more interested in seeing whether Vanir, because of the amount of pressure they managed to soak, the amount of resources they managed to buy from that top side, whether they can actually get themselves a Herald. You know, we were saying about Corki not always being the best champion taking first Herald because it's before that first package timing, it's before you become an unmitigatable, undeniable.
There we go.
What's the word I could use for this? I've gone too far into the dictionary for this one, but it's very hard to stop Corki like
to M. Yes, that's quite a long way in. Either way,
it's halfway through. It's a lot of language, a lot of letters in the English.
There's a lot of words as you get halfway through. How many pages? How many pages in the dictionary? That's a dangerous question to ask. Either way,
which version?
Quite a lot of them, I think, is probably a fairly good answer, and we'll leave it at that. Linkas at level 6 with the stolen blue buff around him. About to face check Creox, and I'm not sure how much he wants this. Ericsson starting to wander on over, gets a knock-up, but I just don't think Linkas is particularly happy about that. Good sidestep means he avoids a big one to the face. Herald started up by Vanir, as you suggested they might be, but Dusty are here to contest.
Dreampole doesn't have ult. That's a huge tool for Dusty, not available. I do think Vanir might actually be overcommitting to this one. Feels like Linkas has a lot of options to front line.
Stormbringer, though, of course, is dashed up by a charm, and Foxy gets that one. What can they get done as Backlund throws down the Spirit Rush. One dead already. The Ultra Shock Laser goes wide, but Backlund still hunting for another charm, potentially. Herald has to be seen to Dusty, and yes, Vanir go a little too deep.
Again, maybe just a bit emboldened by what had happened around top lane before, but when you have that Volibear going in to be the sole front line, because Ornn's not really in position, doesn't have the ult, not in the thick of things, you are going to lose that front line battle. Charm lands, Dusty cut down the first target. Ericsson and crew on the top side had done such a good job of, again, playing around the top side early, but it does feel like the champions they have on the Rift just not cut out for that Herald, and they kind of missed the memo on that one.
Well, we've got a Corki on the Rift. Look at that booty. It's fluffy and glorious, as are, in fact, our NLC pets at home. Look at that. What a wonderful bow tie.
You know, I look forward to seeing Parmesano's tweets.
They are wonderful.
We
maybe don't have as much time to relish in the cat as we would like. As there's a gank happening in the top side, Kerberos taken pretty low, but doesn't fall down. Now he can start healing back up. Massive chunk, the turnaround, and the fear begins to rise as Kerb executes one, and he's looking like he's got a few more on the chopping block. But they'll get out of this one, and suddenly those plays that Vanir were turning around early are all going Kerb's way now.
Now, the worry I have about what's happening with Vanir is that they are continuing to play around this top side, and they don't have the waves in the right place. Feels like Dreampole, last couple of times we've gone up towards top lane, Dreampole's had to try and have some help crashing in a wave, has to try and disengage. It's just not happened. I'd actually much rather Vanir kind of leave Dreampole out to dry a little bit and just try and play around bot lane maybe just for once. And it feels like this Lucian Nami hasn't actually managed to be the cross-map, huge pressure point on bot side that we could play around.
And honestly, speaking of that, we wanted to kind of highlight these two players because they've been pretty pivotal to both teams' success, and the fact they're not being played around particularly considering the draft here for Vanir, is a little problematic.
Yeah, and I do kind of feel like it's a little bit of mind control from the Darius pick, where you see the Darius and you go, I need to do something about that. And I agree that is very much something you needed to do, and they did it early on. I feel like after a point, though, you have to be very aware that it is going to be a losing scenario on top side until you have a certain amount of items onto someone like Corki that can help you out, because Volibear, Ornn don't have enough damage, particularly once you get up to like level 9, max ranking that Q from Darius to get loads of healing, lower cooldown, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, you're not one-shotting the Darius. He gets to turn it around. You are losing those topside fights. You win a couple of the early level ones, and they did very well at doing that. But that next step of recognition that you're not getting anything more out of topside hasn't really been hit. I feel like it should have gone towards bot lane with those 2-star carries.
Yeah, and honestly, considering, you know, historically, Merbs has been near enough 35% of the team's kill shares, which is a big number, even if you are the AD carry, and you're playing with an Ornn and a Lucian here. It feels a little bit counter to how Vanir have won their games and their draft as well.
You know we say kill share. Imagine if that was kill shares, and it's like actually you get enough kills to actually just own the team.
It's the Summoners Rift stock market.
Yeah, sorry, Merbs actually owns Vanir now. Sorry guys,
he's got the controlling stake. But maybe a controlling stake could be found in topside as well, investing in gold or at least plates is Kerberos right now with this wave being shoved in. Dragon secured by Vanir in the bot side. That is their second, and edging towards a win condition there, but a handshake pulls Kraox into an Ultra Shock Glaze, and I don't think he was particularly happy about that business deal either. And Linkcast is where else but top?
It was going to be here. I don't know if a cross map can happen from Vanir, though. Voxney sends so strong. Dreampull looking like
Big knock up, teleport as well. They're going to try. Massive Call of the Forge God knocks up 2. The Brother Progs are there, and it's a package to boot. Dead Kerberos. He's gone. They execute the Executioner, and the Noxian Rampage to the top side ends swiftly.
On Dreampull once again in the dive, gets a little more for his money than what Dusty were really prepared for. Dusty couldn't get a timely dive. They couldn't get a CC chain. Teleport comes through, and you know we're saying, you know what, top lane kind of gets difficult until Corki becomes relevant. First package used to stave off that attempt, and it's in fine timing for them, because Vanir did feel like their cross-map potential wasn't really going to be enough to equalize it on the other side of the map, but they managed to find it through topside anyway.
Do indeed, and it is a nice turnaround. It prevents what would have been a very ugly dive. Either way, still Dusty with a gold lead early on. Of course, a pretty scary Darius despite the death there as well. 2-1-1 with that Trinity Force completed. Kerberos, the last time he picked the champion earlier on in the split, ended with a 12-0 KDA. Had a very phenomenal, a very strong game on that. Very phenomenal feels a little odd to say. I think you just say phenomenal normally, but there you go. The English teacher and me coming out to play briefly. And he's in a position to carry.
The axe very good.
Yes, yes, that's exactly how I should have said it.
Curb Q go woo. I'm trying to
Q go stomp to, you know, get curb stomp in there. That would have been a little bit, you know, nicer.
The thing is, though, like, I feel like so many people have said that over the years at this point that you need to be very careful with that one. It is very good, and he has been swinging that axe with a hell of a lot of force behind it so far. And it's not been off to the best start in terms of... what have you got?
Ludenzari.
He's done it! Yes! Oh, you know, I was so focused on other lanes. This is what happens when I'm not paying attention.
We've got to pay attention to this fight at the top side, though. As a flash for a stun puts Voxney into a bailout, and he will not be able to survive. Tries his best, but now Kraox going for a stun onto Stend, but will not be able to secure the kill quite yet. There is still a Stormbringer, though, so this tower can be shut off pretty swiftly. They're just going to go and try and take it down regardless.
Okay, so Backlund with that damage up on the top side. 3v3, tower in tow.
Flash audacious charges. Zaremba is gone. In goes Backlund, though. Trying to bail himself out. Survives! That is a business deal you'll take.
Oh gosh, and now Vanir overstay in the top side. It has been all top side this game. We called it out from the beginning, said, yeah, you got to do something early with this Xin Zhao. Play around this top side, and one good fight later, after we say everything about Backlund getting involved in the game, and they take that topside turret. They get a couple of stacks on a Dark Seal. Snowball starting to engage. It was our Australian lanes very briefly as those Druid lanes went towards topside, and what a confrontation this was. Zaremba just trying to catch out then Voxney, and does just about manage it after a couple of traded flashes, but it is really when everyone else comes to party after this point. It's an overstay into an overstay. Dusty come out better for it.
Linkas with a flash and a wind becomes lightning has a very long engage range, it turns out, and there wasn't enough tankiness, and suddenly that Ahri goes from 1-2 and 1, failed dive kind of towards the top side early on, and is very much in this game now with those stacks beginning to come through on the Dark Seal and the gold. You can see where it's kind of differentiated here between the two teams.
Now, the thing is, particularly against a champion like Corki, Ahri using an Everfrost doesn't actually get the best value out of it, particularly when Corki gets package. You're likely just doing a chunk of burst and then Corki's flying away. So
have you mind controlled Backland? Like, he's just bought the book seconds as well.
You know, we were talking about, like, when you get nominated for an Emmy, you get the chance to, like, multitask and, like, put a copy of yourself out there. I'm actually playing on this keeper. No, absolutely not. But Backland looking to snowball, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Your job now as Backland, what this build signifies is I want to burst the Corki. I want to burst someone on the bot side of the map and stop them from having a really cushy time in the team fight. I actually think, ironically, how Tempt plays is kind of what you want to see from Backland with this build. It's what this build wants to do. You don't necessarily want to be playing around hitting the Volley Bear and the Ornn. They're a little bit too tanky. You're looking for those backline targets. Let's see how Backland can reach those primary targets.
Absolutely. Looking towards a bit more wave clear right now for Ericsson as well, who's doing his very best with that Ravenous Hydra second. Oh, sorry, the Tiamat second, not quite completing all the way up to the Ravenous quite yet.
I am unironically quite happy by this.
You're actually looking very smug right now. I'm just saying, I've never seen you and Backland in the same room, so who knows? Maybe this really is you on a keyboard just in front of here.
Oh, gosh. Well, either way, again, it just speaks to the playstyle, right? Particularly because you are the sole AP on your team. The magic penetration you get from Ludens, building up those extra legendary items does go a long way. Speaking of that, see what's going to happen with the next big power play. 3 members in the mid lane from Dusty looking to force the issue. 1 pick can mean so much damage coming onto that prime target.
Chunk onto the Ahri, but they secure the tower. They get that Drake for themselves while preventing a soul point for Vanir. Yes, it's traded in the top side for a turret, but Dusty take that as a pretty well-orchestrated series of plays that went their way.
So all this takes now is 1 good fight from Dusty, and the game gets very, very difficult. Already the side lane's getting more difficult for that Ornn, but if you get Snowball Gold into your Darius, Magi stacks onto your Ahri, all it takes is 1 good fight. The map starts to fall apart. On the other side, though, Vanir, you are looking to just try and stall out the game. Deny that 1 fight. Get the 3 items in your Corki and start dealing with the range advantage you have. You have an Ornn, you have frontline, you can disengage with multiple waves of Call of the Forge God and that Nami Tidal Wave. So that's what we're really looking at now. As we slow down, let's just try and say, how is this game going to go? You want to just stall out the game from Vanir, get to your items, whereas Dusty, you're looking to find that 1 fight to blow open the game.
As it stands, still a little while before this game is well and truly over, but Dusty, it does feel like in a very good position right now with the way the map is set up. They prevented the soul point stack as well. You can try to wait a little bit for this core to hit a second item, and that's a little delayed with that Tiamat pickup.
And it does mean that, again, you're not playing around your item spikes right now. Ahri just picked up the Sork shoes. It is really just hit that first target. If you are going to have 1 moment to hit that Corki who hasn't built a Hex Drinker, you want to make sure your damage is really, really efficient. Of course, the same applies to Lucian if you get on top of them too. You're looking to dive in, get that 1 combo. Is that going to be relevant in this fight? Vanir managed to set up some defensive lines, and at least they managed to defend this this tower. Dusty not feeling a fight just now.
I suspect as we kind of slowly soar over the red side jungle of Dusty here, you can see the wards down. They've set themselves up a pretty strong CCTV network. They know exactly what's going on in Vanir's camp.
Just said soar. I'm like, do you want to play a game? Feeling a little bit more like one of those movies coming out of there. And again, it does feel like, again, Dusty are looking, they're angling. They're not over-forcing it. I think that's good. I think if they do end up forcing too hard, it gets very dangerous for them. When someone like Xin Zhao falls behind the curve, we know exactly what happens to that. It was a very dangerous prospect, actually, in this game. After those top lane plays didn't go the way that they potentially wanted them to. Now, Vanir, in response to this, they are, again, making sure they can't get picked off across the map. Dragon's not up yet, but they're looking for the fight.
They're going to try and make this one happen. In they go, flash out, but Kerberos with a double! Apprehend! Deletes the Lucian! There ain't no second chance for you! He's straight dead! And that'll be another murder on the block for Kerberos.
And that is just as the Baron is spawning. They're making a beeline. They don't have as many cooldowns now, but without the Lucian Nami, what realistically can Vanir do?
Straight over to the Baron they go, and Ericsson, yes, you've got a second item, but I don't know whether the damage is really in. Vanir need to make this one hurt. There's the charm onto Dreampool, who might be an Ornn, but still gets chunked very heavily.
Oh, that's an ult.
They do get the hostile takeover, gets onto Corki, but doesn't really shoot too many other people. Dreampool backing away is ignited, but will survive. They pull away from the Baron, but Dusty don't feel confident enough to continue assaulting the big purple
I think
worm.
if they carry on a little too far beyond that, Merbs and Zaremba come back to play, and that gets very dangerous after that point. The cleanup potential evolution gets very difficult. So this is actually just the singular TP coming from Ari on the side. Knows that they're in a bit of an awkward situation, and sadly, actually, for the side of Dusty, they kill off Delusion a little too early to get any kill participation on Ari, and they don't get the other kill onto it, so you're still sadly quite a few Magi stacks. When you get to 10, that's when it becomes gold efficient, and you get move speed bonus too. You get the ability to close down the gap very, very quickly. And of course, with a Luden's proc on top, they actually become very quick even without your ultimate being involved, but still, it's a good fight for the team as a whole. And Dusty starting to take control of the bot side jungle after this point too, returning to that scene of the crime.
Of course, for Vanir, if they can get Ericsson, the man who's been offered so much support from his family. What a wonderful video that was in the pre-show.
Actually, taking some time to speak about that.
Yeah.
That is actually something really, really cool. Not always the easiest path into a career, going into gaming, going into esports. Seeing that familial support, it really does mean an awful lot. Shout out to Ericsson, the family. That is actually a very special moment. We just want to take that extra time to put that on the table.
Absolutely. And, in this game as well, he's on the Corki, he's on the Scalet, he's got an Ornn, he'll be ornamenting his Mythic when he can build that, which is probably looking like a third option, or third item build. There we go, there's probably a better way of phrasing that, but still.
Well, let's see whether he can transform from being a scalar into a vector. See, that's actually a scalar with direction. Yeah, do your science homework for that one, I suppose. But he has the package. It's 20 seconds until that dragon and Vanir are actually the ones with the angle on this. There is vision behind them, though. Let's see what can happen. Kerberos, no flash, no ghost, lacking that target access. Dusty needs to find their target.
Oh, all right, Ericsson. The moment we start shouting him out, lands a big one that chunks down Voxley to half alongside Stend.
Backlund is trying to find someone out of position, but again, Vanir just very happy to hold this. Dusty felt like they had the vision control, should have had the angle, but they don't hold their territory well enough. Charm misses.
Soul point now secured, but Dusty take the opportunity to shove in waves in mid and bot. Linkas runs into Dreampool, is forced to burn the Crescent God, but gets onto Ericsson, who burns the package to escape. Now what can Backlund the rest do? Big charm down, but not quite enough damage, and now he's in danger. The stacks are in danger. He's about to fall, you feel. Just about escapes, though. They'll take Stend, but not the Ari. But what can Denvoxley and Kerberos now in a 1 versus 4 do to try and extricate themselves from the situation?
Feels like a real big fumble from Dusty. They had the vision on bot side, they knew they were playing around package, but they tried to half commit to a fight without really finding the right targets. Dusty letting that soul point fall away to Vanir, and Vanir held their discipline, didn't go walking into too much fog of war, managed to get themselves that extra dragon, and now finding themselves again into a point where they were aiming for, trying to elongate the game a little bit. Actually, if it comes up to that next dragon, they shouldn't feel pressured to go for a big fight. They can just wait for another item or two, and this is kind of what we're talking about, right? Like, they have the vision control, but they let Vanir get towards that dragon, and they didn't find themselves a particularly great place to engage. Backlund kind of aimlessly ulting into that fight, trying to find someone, bit of a hope and a dream, and is very, very lucky that knockup didn't land. That would have been death, and would have been stacks going with it. The snowball, the anti-snowball at that point, losing gold value for that death beyond just the gold you give over.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit risky. That's what you get for Spirit rushing across the tail end of a package. Little bit more damage, I suspect, than Backlund was expecting. Either way,
the ult half cancelled by the pop-up of the Ornn Q as well.
Also that. Yeah, you do not want that one.
Unfortunate timing.
It's in Volcanic Pillar, I believe it's called.
Volcanic Rupture.
Volcanic Rupture, that's what it is.
See, I'd know that because I'm very good at ability names, apparently, according
Indeed.
to various other pieces of content.
I can never quite remember, because of course I'm so used to thinking Rupture as in Cho'Gath Key.
Yes. Yeah, that was a bit of a rough one, but either way, becoming more and more relevant in that fight, and Ornn going to become slowly more and more relevant. It's well behind in CS, still able to impact these fights. That Call of the Forge God in that last one was very pivotal for Vanir. Question is, what can Dusty do to accelerate the game so that kind of doesn't happen again? Feels like they're giving Vanir kind of easy entries into these fights, not really leveraging side lane pressure too much, nor are they finding clean picks or engages onto the targets they really want.
That said, Kerberos is a bit of a menace right now. I don't think there's anybody who really wants to be in the 1v1 versus him. And honestly, a 1v2 would be a little bit risky as well, considering it is a Darius who does finally secure that bot lane tier 2. That now goes down. We'll see a reset coming out of the Darius. Ahri at 3 items. There's the Force of Nature in for Curb. And they still do have the gold lead, do Dusty. It's a fairly significant one at that as well.
So I actually think that, so what happens when you stack up so much flat magic penetration? Of course, Shadow Flame gives you that, so you end up getting a little bit less efficient with it. If you had enough gold for a death cap, you would have loved it over that point, but I feel like this is just the instant bump, looking for a big fight, looking for the snowball again.
There's going to be a lot of damage. They throw out the Crescent Guard, but Denvoxy on the other side taking a lot of damage. The exhaust on Demurge puts him so low! Get him! They get the stacks and 10 are in. The Medjai Soul Stealer will get another few, up to 14, and Backland beginning to reset. The double is in. You see what they get to run with? Reset after reset, and Nymera feels so damn vindicated.
Everfrost could never! I have waited so long for a person to pick up the snowball build, look at those squishy carries and say, come at me, try and deal with this. Dusty, find the snowball fight. It's a handful of kills into a Baron, and this is the fight they were looking for to accelerate the game.
I will show you fear in a handful of Dusty players. We'll quote the Wasteland one more time, and we'll go towards a Baron power play for Dusty. This time, the picks come true.
And it couldn't have come at a better time, because Vanir are still sat on that Mountain Soul point, a minute to it. And it is really off the back of Linkus and Backland finding their way back in. Just look at what happens when you get onto these targets. Backland hasn't procced Electrocute yet. That is ultimate W and an auto. Procs that Electrocute afterwards, a Luden's proc on top of it. And just look how much damage you get from this no counterplay build. When you get ahead of the game, those targets really can't run away from you. And of course, someone like a Ghost running Darius, similarly having strong target access when the fight gets broken up. Dusty now back into that driver's seat. Is it enough? They need to, of course, see this game out. And they can't let slip a dragon through a flip. See what they can do. Now the gold and the snowball is well and truly rolling.
And that is always the risk, of course. Vanir have played some of these fights and turnarounds valiantly indeed. And they are running an Ahri, a Corki.
Yeah, we can talk about that again.
They're running into an Ahri. We mentioned that enough at this point. You've got a Wormfall and Sacrifice in on this Lucian. If they can get to 3 items, if they can get the soul, things get a little bit harder for Dusty to play this one out.
You need to really be looking for an initial pick, separating someone off from Dusty now, hopefully just hoping they dive, over-engage, and they find themselves going into a Call of the Forge God, into a Tidal Wave, something like that. Because the problem when you have Wormfall and Sacrifice, when you don't have a Hex Drinker on your Corki, is that if you end up kind of turning around for your own turnaround damage, you get completely burst out. We've seen the amount of damage that Backland has. That, of course, that applies to Den Voxner and Linkus and Kerberos too. Lots of big turnaround damage in short order. You need to be very careful about how you're positioning as these squishy carries in a gold deficit.
Yes, indeed. Still no Ludens in for Ericsson, who's got to be close to it at this point. You have to feel... You've made your point at this point. He's smug enough. He's got it right this time around. It's a very strong Ahri at the 4-2-4. Shoving in on this top side. Kerberos towards the bottom of 1-3-1. Very much enabled, or now moving towards a 3-1-1 as members of Dusty begin to rotate towards this remaining outer turret.
So, 40 seconds left on that Baron power play. No objective up for Dusty to reset for or to have torn away from them if they didn't quite manage that. They're using the last couple of waves to find something. No flash on Backland to force a play, but just any one piece of CC landing, and that's someone dying from Vanir at the end of it.
1/2 for Q. Chunks Krayox out at significantly more than he was hoping for. That Orb of Deception is deceptively strong at this point. Cullen comes through to clean out the wave, and worth pointing out, Dusty did secure the most recent Drake as well, so Vanir can't even try to play for that right now. Inhibitor turret in mid lane broken. Inhibitor lane in top side about to fall as well. Gonna see whether they can hold on now that the Baron buff has dropped.
Now, there's enough wave clear for now that Vanir are feeling okay about this last wave. They've had the base broken into but not shattered, so they're not gonna have super minions crushing in across their waves right now. But it's still a lot of gold to Dusty. They get to back, see what they can complete with their items after this point. Even Stend picking up a second item now, that redemption.
Yeah.
To continue the fight, because they are looking to, again, find these broken fights where Zeri, Ahri, Darius can really start running you through. The damage is seriously there now for Dusty to force Vanir to scatter lest they get caught up in huge burst combos.
Honestly, that was an economy Baron that broke the bank of Vanir. They've gone from about 5,000 gold ahead to solidly about 10,000 now, just shy
Back
of.
has gold to death cap. Now this is huge as well. Those one-shots are getting to the point where it is almost 100 to 0. You have to flash away. There it is to double away. It's there at this point. You know, the corrupting pot is basically there for extra movement speed at this point because you pop it and you have Magi's, you have Luden's procs, you're running at them, and it gets to the point
speed, yeah.
What that means is so when you play with an Everfrost, you use the Everfrost to force a defensive ability, right? When this one, you use your raw damage to say, you must flash, you must dodge, otherwise you can't fight anymore. And that's the difference between the mentality of them. Of course, it requires that Ludens to be ahead. It requires that burst combo to be heavy, heavy burst. Just as Muz was potentially looking to burst out Den Voxnay, but it's not going to happen. But Dusty, they have the damage, they have the tools to make it happen. Vanir,
Gonna go for a go. Ericsson's just got himself an upgraded Ludens as well to try and make something happen, but the engage just isn't quite there. They saw a potential opening. They tried to make it happen the moment Ericsson was in with the upgrade. But even an Eye of Luden won't quite be able to draw a bead this time around.
So Kerberos wasn't there at the play. I think that was why Vanir pressed that go button. We're potentially looking to see if he hadn't been on that recall. And now Kerberos sat there on so many items too. Of course, Darius doesn't really need a lot of help from damage in his items. It's about target access. It's about being able to stick in that fight because the amount of continual damage he gets, particularly onto those tanks, through that bleed, through everything else, is so ridiculous. And we've spoken a lot from Dusty's side in terms of what they're looking for. Actually, you know, they're not able to close this game that cleanly because Vanir have disengage options. They have a lot of damage too as well. You know, they have those items on Corki as you're calling out, and they have a stopwatch too now. Ericsson may be able to outplay the first bit of burst damage, but again, it depends on what cost that comes at. Are you stuck in a bad position if you have to use that stopwatch? Honestly, I think you're not really able to survive a lot of these combos unless you have the unstoppable nature of that package. It feels like that would have to be the saving grace for this, but you currently don't have it for this spawning Baron. 8 seconds, 7 ticking down, and now Vanir have to walk into the fog, walk into a potential engage. You have to play it oh so carefully.
Do Vanir care, though? It's 30 seconds to what would be sold for them, and they decide this is the risk.
This is someone dead if Backland lands a charm. Look how scared Vanir have to be. They don't have the vision. See them tentatively look towards it.
Dragon time. They're gonna flip at the soul. They decide soul is their chance. They're teleporting in for this as well.
Better territory for them. They get the access to it, and now they have the package. Vanir, this is your last chance saloon. What can you do?
Ericsson lands a big one. That's Backland down to about 2/3, and they're gonna retreat straight back over to this mountain soul. And I don't think Dusty, I was going to call them Den Voxnay, they're a bit more than just the one player, are going to try and shove in, and this actually might be a risk. How quickly can they retreat, having taken the soul?
They have a Sorcerer's Elixir, they have several items onto Den Voxnay as well. That's a quick inhibit to take, but they don't have positioning on their waves to finish anything off. Look what Dusty can do with wards over walls. Look for those individual picks. They've not found solid engages, but all it takes is one slip up. Vanir didn't fall into it around that Baron. It still could happen after this point. So, that's a Mount Soul onto Vanir. I still don't think that actually saves them from the burst damage that comes in from Dusty. It is all about just not getting hit at this point. And it's much easier for Vanir to not get hit than Dusty because of that range advantage. But one side is a one-shot, one is just poke for now. Game's still on.
They're getting towards the point where the wave clear can start to manage even against a Baron. It feels like Corki with the 3 items, maybe, just maybe, can be what they need. Ericsson, a player that every time I see him, I'm reminded was on Verdant last split in Div 2, who, you know, descended towards Division 3, now up at Div 1. It's becoming an increasingly impressive mid laner, but maybe this is the moment they're going to try and get in onto Den Voxnay. But he's thrown down the lightning crash, surviving. The Berserk will start turning this one around, a hostile takeover. Do it they can! Oh my God!
There we go, the electrocute, pop the Q2 on both.
That's not an electrocution, that's a full thunderstorm, just comes crashing down, deletes Lucian from the rift.
And oh my gosh, Backland, welcome to the Nightmare approved Aria players. I am so happy to see this player pop off in this regard. It takes them such a long time to find that pick. They crush down so many inhibitors at this point though, and Dusty looking to stamp out resistance in this game.
Blink and you miss it. He had a stopwatch. You didn't think he had it. We're going to need to use it. I think that was probably 0.5 seconds from 80% to dead.
It was pretty much on that. And again, it is just the 0 counterplay combo. One one which might end up sealing this game. Dusty looking to move to 10 and 4, keeping pace with that top of the table, looking to see how far they can go in summer.
They're going to have Merbs respawn. It's still early enough that he's not down for that long. He's behind in a lot of levels as well, and that always, of course, extends the death timers the higher level you are. But they've only got one inhibitor turret remaining, and they've still got 25 seconds on this Baron to work with.
You have flashes available from everyone besides Zeri on Dusty. What can they find to land at this point? Because that's now going to be, of course, okay, see what they're doing
Lands the
here.
apprehend, but can they prevent the call of the Forge God? Out comes the hostile takeover onto 4! And it's going to be an absolute disaster for Vanir, who are going to be deleted. The stopwatch double from Ericsson and Merbs. Buy them a little bit of time, but just not enough. Another double to Backland, who proves Nightmare right once more.
Library's open, come on in, get stacking, folks. Dusty, it's a whole team performance, top side of the map. Didn't go the way they wanted to in the early levels, but they got it rolling surely but slowly. Vanir, sadly not able to capitalize on their own advantages in this game, falling to 5 and 9, keeping themselves in a very dangerous position when it comes to those playoffs. It feels like they are that close. Other teams slipping up around them, but Dusty too strong today.
Absolutely. It looked for a moment in those early game moments where you saw the top lane dives go a little awry. You began to wonder. It just didn't happen though. And Dusty, once they got rolling, didn't really look back.
You know, and they didn't have to do anything special, didn't have to do anything particularly inspired. They just had to do it by the book.
Any complaints about you, Jake? Like, seriously, it's ravaging to talk with Nightmare. I mean, you warned me about him, but no, I guess... this is complicated to say, but I'm going to say it. Nightmare was right.
Nightmare is inevitable, and Nightmare is the unstoppable force that pervades our subconscious, our consciousness that exists. Well played to him. It's not easy being right all the time. Sometimes it can go left.
He just lifted his pinky while drinking water.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're British.
It's not even tea.
No.
He looks like the Dr. Evil of NLC right now. 1 million, 1 million Dark Seal stacks. I mean, for me, I want to get into this game.
Yeah, let's jump in. Dusty with the big victory, allowing them to get closer to that top 2, while Vanir missed their shot to get closer to playoffs. I'm going to start with you, Duckling. He had the Italian way, I'm going to call it this way. They started with a really good way, preventing the top lane from dying from Dreampool, but it wasn't enough.
For me, Dreampool had a great game in the early game, and it really felt like it was coming together for Vanir. But one thing I realized as we were watching the later stages of the game was nothing happened bot lane. You've picked a Nami Lucian that is supposed to get ahead early, and they didn't do any of that. And the main thing is, yes, it's easy to catch out a immobile AD carry in the late game with the Nami Lucian as well, because you have the slows and the abilities. But the Zeri, she just stands next to a wall, jumps away, and she's out to safety. So you didn't have that pick potential that the bot lane normally brings. And with that, moving on to the late game, it just felt like the Zeri was taking over.
Yeah, for me, it's a really sad loss, obviously, for Vanir. So close. You obviously saw that video previously. We're getting into a replay here. This is where it all really started to go wrong for me. Dusty, go for the 3-man dive here. You just constantly see this being the theme throughout the game. He obviously, I think at a certain point, we see the re-dive here from Backland. Backland does end up falling for the 1-for-1. But this just continued to be a pressure point for Dusty. And for me, it's a sad loss for them, obviously, because of the video we saw previously. There was a fleeting moment where you thought we would see the return of the Mac. But unfortunately, the nature of Dream's Archrom is thunder only comes when it's raining. And the Volley Bear, the Prince of Thunder, was not able to thunder down vengeance upon their enemies. And it's a sad day for Vanir, unfortunately.
You got to step up your game, by the way. Bringing in the poems, you got to step up somehow.
I don't have the poems. I'm not British. Do you want me to recite
Wait, what do you mean?
Hans Christian Andersen poems? Like, what do you want?
Well, I want you to talk me through the mid to late game, where we finally got to see this working. And it's really interesting. I never thought I would see the day where Corki's supposed to be the burst mage. It's not poke, let's be honest. That's not poke. It's burst when he gets to those 2 to 3 items. But in reality, it was Adi, the one being the burst mage.
Wow, what a performance, I will have to say, man. Backland, he just one-shot in those team fights. I do also want to give some credit to Stend here, because in those last team fights, as they were approaching the base, the hostile takes takeovers were massive. 2 ultimates in a row from Kriex were denied by the hostile takeover, so he just ended up dunking down on his own team. And I just want to give fair play with the hostile takeovers.
We're going to do a hostile takeover to you as we jump into the interview with Stend as well. The support coming in from Dusty. I mean, you got to be proud of this one. Your ultimate at the last moment of the game. Chef's kiss. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling really, really happy. We did 2-0 week again. And yes, I think we kind of messed up the early game. It was not like a clean win, just a little bit.
Just a little.
But a win is a win, so yeah, I'm really happy with the team.
And with that win, by the way, Stan, you get closer to the 2nd seed of the NLC for playoffs. Is that your dream, going to 2nd and then slap and style on those kids of JDXL?
Actually, we are 2nd, I think.
Yeah, but you're still not secure, you know? We still have a few more days.
Oh, yeah. But like we are even with
Riddle, yeah.
Riddle, yes. So, and we will play them next week. So the objective is to beat them for sure. And then we will play the playoff, and I hope we will go to the final.
Big question for you. If you had to pick someone to fight in playoffs to get the 1st place, do you prefer to fight off versus JDXL or Riddle, the 1st versus 2nd?
GDXL for sure.
Oh, why?
I want to be remembered as the best team in this league, so I want to finish 1st.
Thank you for this one, Stan. High words coming from you. Let's see what happens on the next day, because there you go. It's going to be the 2nd versus 2nd. Maybe you can solidify it. So best of luck, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I mean, I love the courage, I would say, the mushrooms of saying, I want to fight versus JDXL.
It's the winning mentality.
For me, he's the Tammy Wynette of the league, because he's always going to stand by his man, and he just.
How many reference can you do?
I'm a walking book, you know. I came here to impress today, and I'm just. I've got a Rolodex, you know.
Okay. What about Vanir, though? They still are open for the race. They can still get into playoffs, especially because Bifrost lost versus Single.
Want me to go again?
Do it.
The thing about a veneer, right, it's a fake set of teeth. And if you don't get your teeth sunk into it sometimes, you get that, you know, when you eat ice cream, for example, you get that brain freeze. And they do feel like their brains are freezing up somewhat. And we need to get that kind of moving in a way whereby they can, you know, get that cognitive function going actively.
Can I get you as my mods on stream? I need you as a mod. So when you ban those kids, you style on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been banned quite a few times in NLC. So.
Vanir, what can we expect from them in the future?
Well, for me, the important thing for Vanir now is to secure not going into relegations. And they look good to that. That's what we've been talking about. But this was really their last call for players, right? They were lended a hand last time around when X7 lost, and then they had to play against X7. Now, Bifrost lost. They could close the gap yet again, but they failed to take these opportunities. Now they've had 2. I doubt they will be getting more.
Hey, they still have to fight versus Bifrost for that
That's
opportunity.
True.
So let's talk with Zaremba on the side of Vanir. Welcome back to the interview. Obviously, stakes are at the highest possible. You would handle the handout, as the Duckling was saying, the fact that Bifrost lost versus Singularity. This could have been your shot. How do you feel about this one? This has to be rough, but there's still a window.
Hello, guys. First of all, yeah, this game was nice looking one until the Herald, and then like missteps. Yeah, like Singularity gave us a chance for the playoffs. Right now it's super hard. Even harder. This week was the most important one of every week possible, and we just did 0-2. So you have to pray that someone will troll again, and we're gonna win everything right now. But it's gonna be tough, you know.
You still have to fight off versus Bifrost, which is your enemy right now in the standings for playoffs. How do you think that game will go?
The Bifrost games?
Yeah, you're going. I think you still have to play versus Bifrost. I still have one of those games. So how do you think that game will go?
I mean, I don't even know. I think it's gonna be like a 50-50 because Bifrost have like their moments when, like, for example, they play like today. It wasn't the greatest, but for sure they are looking better than us, at least right now. Maybe in the next scrims we're gonna improve, like, I don't know, 20 times than normal, and we're gonna do a very nice run. But it's looking tough right now.
Zaremba, I want to ask you, what do you believe is missing away from Vanir to take the next step? You guys are getting good earlies. You guys can get good rotations. The macro is clean some games. It seems like when you play, one part of the team is really clean, and then you miss on some fundamentals on the other side. In the next game, you can get those fundamentals, but miss on the thing that you already did in the game before. What do you believe is missing for Vanir to be a top 6 team at NLC?
I mean, it's all about like the discipline, or like stop chasing the dopamine, like it's always like Flash saying.
Yeah.
We're like engaging without like a main reason, just to like engage and start the fight. We're like lacking like the prep before the objective. Sometimes we are doing this perfectly, it's super nice. Then like there we just running around like a monkeys between the lanes, not doing anything, and just like looking how enemy team just pushes our side waves and mid wave at the same time, making vision. Then we can't really do anything. I don't know even like how to describe this. I'm just like a support sitting on the mid lane. I can say, yo guys, like mid lane. But I guess I'm just too bad to micromanage people. Or like, I guess I'm not that good enough to like solo carry the game by the comms. So I guess I have to improve on this, and like maybe if I focus on this, we can make it,
If I may step in on that one, you are the one climbing your mountain. It's up to you, and you cannot judge yourself like, okay, I'm missing on this, and the team is not getting that. It's a 5-man squad. It's a 5-man squad. So share the burden with your teammates because the team is good. You're the hero of your own story if you allow yourself to be. So keep climbing that mountain, man. Don't give up on hope. There's still an opportunity. Okay?
Of course, like mathematically, we can still make it. It's only if you're gonna take the chance,
Yeah, take it. See what the dice rolls. Thanks so much for this interview, Zaremba, and I hope to see you soon on the Better Way. Have a nice one.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
He's good.
Yeah.
He is. But when you're climbing that mountain, what?
You're good. That was good.
When you're climbing the mountain, sometimes you feel the cold. You feel like you're alone, but this is a 5-on-5. So you have to share the burden. Do you guys think that at some point the teams, when they're looking into playoffs, you're like, I'm lonely? You don't see the rest of the squad.
Well, sometimes you're sitting alone in the base at the point and you've got to make it to the summit, and the sum of your words has to be the sum of the team. Like you're saying, it's a 5-man squad. You've got to make it together. It's got to be that journey. It's no time to sort of think of it as a one-man mission. It's an expedition. It's a journey up that mountain, like you're saying, and you've got to abseil in reverse, because if you abseil in front motion, you end up being at the bottom of the mountain.
I know it's a big meme, but the thing I love the most about Pantheon is the video where he gets knocked off the mountain.
Yeah.
And he just climbs it back up. You can get defeated, but you just need to climb it again.
Keep fighting, yeah.
Yeah, keep finding the mountain.
I think, the reference we're talking about in terms of, the players playing it as individuals kind of brings me back to the reigning champions X7, not really having that great of a start to split with 5 incredible individual players, failing really to make that work on the same page, having to make substitutions to get Viking in, and that has already seemed to be working. You said it. You have to remember, this is a team game. We are a team, not a single unit, regardless of how good you are as individuals. You could be reigning champions, having made very good changes on your roster, it looks like on paper, but if you're playing as 5 individuals, you are not going to make it far.
When the next step is the hardest, just recall that you already took a few one. Look back and see how far you've climbed on that mountain. Let's see the mountain itself on the standings to see where Vanir are currently now. 5-9 versus 7-7. It's going to be a tough one, but they're putting themselves away from relegations. So even if playoffs is not a possibility, relegation seems to be away from them. Then Dusty and Riddle.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the big one. That is the big one.
That's a big one, but there is a certain kind of sordid, not the right word, serendipity.
You missed the words?
Yeah,
the book?
It's just the thesaurus has not worked out here, but there's a serendipity in sort of being so close, but so far. 2 wins out now, running out of time, and you feel as if there's a pressure there. There was definitely a pressure there, and you can tell from that interview that he feels it, but I feel like you have to band together, you have to take every game as it comes, and they're close, but they've got to get nearer.
We still have a few days before we get to playoffs, so everything is possible at the Northern League of Legends Championship.